and why you oftentimes beat yourself up about it, because you go, I'm doing everything right, I'm meditating, I'm praying, I'm eating right, I'm sleeping well, I'm out in nature, but still I keep having these physical problems. Hey, John Nolan here. I wanted to come and talk about something that is seemingly contradictory and seems very strange and sort of illogical to a lot of people. And this might be something you're experiencing or you have been observing, and you just kind of thought, that doesn't make sense to me. And what that is a phenomenon that a lot of people who are practicing deep prayer, deep meditation, who are doing a lot of consciousness raising work, seem to always have, or very often have, physical problems throughout their lives. And that just doesn't seem logical. People say, wait a minute, if you take such good care of yourself, if you do these practices, and even if you eat really great, how come you always have some physical problems? And this is actually not contradictory at all, but you need to understand sort of the deeper meaning of that. So number one, when you are raising your consciousness and doing a lot of those practices, and this also happens to people who, for example, step into a high consciousness field. They come to a sacred site, they go to a pilgrimage site, they activate an FLFE field in their home, and all of a sudden, there is a rise and they feel really great, but then after a little bit, their body seems fatigued or aching or has some reactions. So what is happening is when your consciousness goes up pretty fast, your nervous system can't really catch up that fast. And so your body is in a state of imbalance, which seems like, hold on a minute. So there's something great happening. My consciousness is rising, but my body is in discomfort. And yeah, contradictory, but not really. I talked about this to our dear friend and a lifelong consciousness researcher, Clayton Stedman, co-founder of FLFE, and he said he's been observing this phenomenon for many years, measuring it, studying it, and he says that is a common and normal effect of consciousness rising, is that the body cannot catch up as quickly. What you can do is support it with the proper supplements. So you need higher magnesium intake. You need higher lecithin intake, like sunflower lecithin, for example. And you need a higher intake of something like fish oil for the fat. So those are the three components that he told me that's what he measured over and over again, over thousands of measurements, is what the body needs so the nervous system can catch up. I recently had such an experience, and it really helped my body, like within an hour or two, as I upped the intake of those supplements, I immediately felt more at ease. So that's one element, is when consciousness rises, the body needs to catch up. It can't do it so quickly. But that doesn't explain the phenomenon of lifelong problems. And even if you go back historically, if you study the sages, the yogis, whether that's in the East and the West, doesn't matter, more often than not, highly spiritually enlightened, advanced, I don't like these words, but people that had that kind of consciousness often were either overweight, had physical problems, weren't in overall great health. And here's the bigger reason for that. When you go above a certain level of consciousness, the body can't seem to truly hold that energy without self-injury. I think a reason for this is that we had been given artificial limiters into our DNA that actually would keep the body at a lower frequency. And I think this was done on purpose to keep us at a certain state. So then when you access higher consciousness and you pull these energies into the body, especially when it happens fairly fast, the body is, that energy literally like kind of burns things in the body. And so a lot of times this was just something that these sages or masters, if you want to call them that, they just accepted this as that's just how it is. They didn't focus too much on the body because their work was in another realm. And so often they would go out, leave this body at a fairly young age, 40s, 50s, 60s. That was part of it. And then the other part of it is also that when people focus highly on the spiritual, on the consciousness side of thing, on energy, on spirit, when they go above the 50% mark, where more than 50% of their time is focused there, they tend to neglect the body by default because there's not enough time, and they just simply make that choice as a conscious choice. They just neglect it. And I can't speak for anyone and say this is wrong or right. I'm just trying to explain the phenomenon of spiritually inclined people that really focus on consciousness rising oftentimes have these problems. Now, is there a solution to that? Well, I do think that, for example, if in your lineage, if you are inclined like that, and even though you might be going through life with problems, but if you pass down this inclination to the next generation, and then they also practice a lot of that, I think that we start to effectively change our genetic makeup and perhaps transcend or remove those limiters in our DNA that with those high energies, that's what causes a problem. So I think that is possible. In our current lifetime, there are people who say that, for example, the sun activity, the lower electromagnetic field of the Earth right now, and other sort of geophysical elements might be of assistance in removing those limitations. I don't know about that. I'm just sharing what people are saying. I do think that whatever is practiced with consistency and whatever is intended with consistency ultimately changes things. So yes, we can change our DNA, we can change our genes, but it is important to comprehend why you in your life might have had those physical problems or still have them, and why you oftentimes beat yourself up about it, because you go, I'm doing everything right. I'm meditating, I'm praying, I'm eating right, I'm sleeping well, I'm out in nature, but still I keep having these physical problems. And so this seems like a huge contradiction that puts people into an inner conflict. And why I'm sharing this is to give you an explanation, but at the same time not an excuse, right? So there still could be things in your physical body that need attention. So it's not like a blanket statement, but it is a very common observation that spiritually inclined people with a higher level of consciousness have certain physical problems. And to a certain degree, that is maybe just something we have to accept and move on with. In my own case, I'm doing everything I can to support the body with the food that I feel is best for it, with the best possible water that I can drink, with the best possible air, with grounding, walking bare feet, with limiting my exposure to EMFs where I can. Like we will unplug any device that has internet during the night. We will turn off our Wi-Fi during the night. We'll limit any devices in general, and we stay out of high density areas as much as we can where there's a lot of EMFs. And of course, we have an amazing support, which is the FLFE field, a high consciousness field. And the EMF mitigation in that field is tremendous, which means it supports your body so well that your effects, your EMF negative effects, go down significantly. So that's also something that we have. If you want to check that out, links in the description, highconsciousnessfield.com. You can try it for free. But the main message here is, when we become aware of something, we can accept it, we can do something about it, the inner conflict can sort of go away, and this is why awareness is so important. So please don't beat yourself up. If this has been your experience, we'd love to hear what has been your experience throughout your life. If this is something that you recognize, you notice in yourself, and what have you done to help your body sort of assimilate better to a higher level of consciousness. All right, friends, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back with you again very soon.
Your environment shapes everything, your thoughts, your health, your energy, but most people never question the invisible field they live in. We did, and that's when FLFE found us. It's not a product, it's a field of pure life force energy that lifts everything it touches. We now live in it 24/7, and we would love to invite you to experience it too. Start your free 15-day trial now. No pressure, no strings attached. Just the truth, resonance, and peace.